first speaker is Vijeta. Vijeta is a technical program manager, visual storyteller, and technical evangelist. And her thing is that there are people out there who are really into technical things, and they are engineers. And when they describe things to us, we usually have difficulties understanding them. And Vijeta will now tell us, via storytelling, how we will get into understanding the technical side of this world. Vijeta, are you here? Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. We can start.
Vijeta, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andreas, for the amazing introduction. And thanks everyone for joining me in this talk. I'll be sharing a presentation shortly, so we can start. Yeah, so you already have an amazing introduction. So I'm Vijeta, and I'm the creator and writer of Cloud Demystified. So this is a personal website that I'm handling, where I'm using visual aids like storytelling, infographics, and analogies, and also videos, animated videos to explain complex technical concepts. Most of these concepts are pertaining to cloud fundamentals and best practices, but here you go. So I won't talk much about my website, and I'll start along with the presentation. So all of us have, technology has been a very major part of our lives in the last few years, and especially in the last year with the pandemic, everyone is relying very heavily on technology for their day-to-day lives. Now, if you want to know about some technical information or know more about technology, where do you go for that information? Ask this to yourself. According to Michael Dahlstrom, only 59% of the people go on to mass media or social media to get this information, where 34% of the people rely on the television, 35% of the people rely on the internet, and a lot of people, that is 22%, rely on magazines and other print media. However, there's a plethora of information out there, and sometimes the information can get really overwhelming. If I start throwing terms like artificial intelligence, machine learning, or if I start writing a big algorithm for you on the screen, it's not going to make your life easier. It's just going to make it a lot tougher, especially when we are relying so heavily on technology for everything. We have artificial intelligence, we have Alexa at home when we want to order groceries. We have to go online for most of our work, even booking a vaccination appointment right now, or even healthcare, something as basic as healthcare is relying so heavily on technology. And we are relying heavily on internet, television, and other sources of mass media to get our information. And like I said, a whooping 59% goes to some of these mass media to get their information. What do we need to do then? So Arthur Koestler has defined creativity to view a situation or an object from two different frames of reference or two unrelated matrices of thought. What do I mean by that? When there's just looking at all the technical information that is coming to us, it is, if I just draw a diagram on the screen for you, it's going to overwhelm you, all the information. So it is important to use the power of creativity or the power of imagination to help others who don't have a very strong technical background, or even those who do. Like I have engineers and people from different professions who need help understanding complex technical concepts. And then I have my mother back in India, and I have my family who don't know technology as well as maybe some of the other engineers do. That is when we need to use the power of creativity and the power of imagination to make our lives simpler. This very thought got me to creating my own website, Cloud Demystified, in which I'm using very simple comics and stories to explain cloud computing and other technical concepts. I know this sounds really unbelievable. How can I explain something like cloud computing, cloud security, artificial intelligence, and all those grand terms using something as simple as a story? This is what I'm going to do with my presentation right now. I'm going to show you how we can use creativity, and I'm going to show you creativity in action to understand various technical concepts. So just hold on tight, and we are going to move on with the cruise now. Let me start with a story because I've been talking a lot right now. Let me just give an example. I I have a friend in my colony, in my complex, who just came up to me one day. She was really stressed out. I asked her, what happened? Why are you so stressed out at the moment? She told me, my laundry machine broke down. So she had a laundry machine at home. She had loaded all of her clothes, her children's clothes and everything in it, and it broke down in the middle of a session. She didn't know what to do. Her clothes were dripping wet and she didn't have a backup. She didn't know what to do at that moment. So she had to run around, just find another laundromat to make sure that her clothes get washed on time. This created a lot of stress, frustration, and she realized that she is in charge of this particular laundry machine. And when it breaks down, she only is responsible for maintaining it, for getting it up, and for finding technical support or for finding support to get it up. Considering it was the time of the pandemic where everything was closed down, she couldn't get a handyman to repair it or any person to repair it for her. And this kind of stress and anxiety got her to exploring something what we call as a laundromat. What is a laundromat? Laundromat consists of not one, but one, two, three, even sometimes 20 or 30 machines. So she had a lot of different laundry machines to choose from. And you know what the best part was? She didn't have to worry at all about maintaining the devices. She could just go in there and check, okay, this laundry machine is empty. I can put in some coins or I can just put in some money and I can use the laundry service as and when I want to. She just had to pay for what she used, which meant she just had to pay while the laundry machine was running. She didn't have to pay for electricity. She didn't have to pay for water. She didn't have to pay for maintaining it. And if a laundry machine had broken down, she didn't need to worry about it. She could just go and tell the owner, hey, a machine has broken down. I'm going to use another machine. That sounded so exciting for her because it was one big load or one big responsibility that was taken off her shoulder. This made her really excited. And you know what happened? With this particular example, she understood the entire concept of cloud computing. What is a cloud? So, you know, all these various institutions, organizations, or even people for that matter, someone like me, have a lot of data when they are trying to run an application or a website. So what cloud providers do is they provide all these organizations with a space to host their applications or host their websites without having to worry about the back end or the infrastructure. I'll explain this a little bit. So whenever you're using an application, Zoom, for example, they have a big data center where they have to manage all the servers, machines, and a lot of hardware, which requires a different kind of specialization. And it's a really big headache to maintain all of it. Cloud provider provide these organizations and people with a space. It's a virtual space, something we're doing right now. It's a virtual space where they can just go, create a virtual machine and run their application without having to worry about anything else. It is very similar to the concept of a laundromat, where you don't have to worry about maintaining a machine, where you don't have to worry about paying for electricity, for any of the infrastructure needs, but you have your basic job, that is of washing the clothes, taken care of without any worry. And it is much cheaper because you may not need to wash your clothes every day. Sometimes the cadence is much slower than that. So you don't have to spend a lot of money, a lot of euros buying a laundry machine, but you can just go and put in coins whenever you need to use the laundry machine and use it. This is how cloud computing works. And what I have done right now is I've used a very simple story, a casual conversation I had with my friend to explain a complex technical concept of cloud computing. And this is something where a lot of us can relate to because all of us have washed clothes at some point of our life or the other. This is what I'm doing with my website, Cloud Demystified, and this is what my presentation is about. Using something very familiar or using something you already know to explain something really complex. This is one example. I'll move on to another one. So story time again. So all of you must have heard about the story of the three little pigs. If you haven't, I'm going to just tell the story to you right now. There were three little pigs who decided to go out into the big forest to explore their lives. They thought, okay, let us go to a forest and let us build our own houses so we can explore our newfound freedom and we can enjoy out in the wild. The first pig decided to build a house of straw, which wasn't really very durable because, straw is very lightweight. It can just get blown around. But he wanted to do something simple, so he just built a straw house. The second pig built a house made of clay. Clay is a little more stronger than the straw, but he decided that is good for him. And the last pig decided to spend some more time, spend some more energy, and built a house made of bricks. Brick, as you know, is extremely hard and extremely durable and has the strongest foundation compared to a straw or a clay house. All of them, they were enjoying, they were having a wonderful time when they suddenly saw a wolf lurking around. The wolf was extremely hungry and he wanted to get into one of the houses to find whatever goodies they have inside. The wolf went to the first pig's house, which was made of straw, and asked the pig to let him in. The first pig decided to run inside the house, lock the door. Because the first pig was monitoring the surroundings, he realized that the wolf was coming close and he decided to lock himself in. That is great. Now the wolf is secure inside the house. The pig is secure inside the house. The pig used a very important concept of monitoring, which we use in cloud security to monitor the surroundings. And as soon as he found out that a wolf was lurking nearby, he managed to close the door. He managed to close and restrict access for the wolf inside the house. The wolf decided to just try his luck, and he huffed and he puffed and he blew the house down. You know what happened there, right? Because the house was not very strong, the foundation wasn't strong, the house was completely blown down. The wolf managed to get inside and eat all the goodies that the pig had stored. So the pig was really upset, but he learned a lesson that he should have spent a little more time on building a stronger house. The wolf decided to go and try his luck with the second pig. He was lurking around the second pig's house, and the second pig decided, okay, the wolf is again going to come into my house and eat my goodies. So he quickly went inside. He not only locked the house, but he locked all of the food or the goodies he had inside a big vault. The wolf decided to try his luck again. He huffed and he puffed and he blew the house down. He went inside the house, but you know what was different there? The second pig had locked all of the goodies inside a vault or a very strong locker. The wolf tried to get access to it, but he could not. So even though the wolf managed to get inside the house, he could not get access to the goodies because it was locked inside a locker or a vault. And this concept is very similar to how we understand encryption when it comes to cloud security. All the good and all the goods were nicely packed inside and it was locked away. So the wolf, even if the wolf could gain access inside the house, the wolf could not gain access to the goodies. The second pig learned an important lesson. Always safeguard your belongings, because even if a person gets inside your house, you need to make sure that they cannot get to all your valuables. Now, the wolf was still hungry. He tried to try his luck on the third house. He went to the third pig and asked the third pig to let him in. The third pig went inside, locked the house. The wolf decided to use the old trick. Let me huff and puff and blow the house down. He huffed and he puffed. Nothing happened. He huffed and he puffed again. Nothing happened. You know why? Because this house was made of bricks, and bricks have a really strong foundation. The pig decided to come inside using the chimney. So he found a vulnerability, or what we call as a small opening inside the house using which he could get inside. The third pig decided to light the chimney and the fireplace, and the chimney smoke was really too much for the wolf to take, and he ran outside. Now, why have I told this story to you? Because I tried to explain cloud security using the story of three little pigs, which probably you have told to your kids already. So I have explained some important concepts here. First, cloud security foundation needs to be extremely strong to prevent anyone else from getting inside or anyone else from accessing your website. Something like Zoom, for example, right now has a very strong security foundation because we don't want any attackers or any hackers to get inside and steal our private data or even make the application or even make this website go down. So cloud security is a very essential part of cloud computing. What the three pigs were doing actively was they were monitoring all the surroundings. They were looking outside and they were making sure there are no predators, no animals coming to attack them. As soon as they saw the wolf, they came inside and they locked the door. That wasn't enough for the straw and the clay houses because they didn't have a strong foundation. And but the second pig had encrypted or had safeguarded all of the data into a locker, because of which the wolf couldn't get access. This is how encryption works when it comes to cloud security. Remember, whenever you're entering your password onto a website, you see some crazy symbols instead of your password in the box. That is called encryption. Encryption is nothing but the act of storing your personal data in a format that is not recognizable to anyone outside. So even if a hacker or an attacker can get inside, for example, a website like a shopping website, they would not be able to get information to your credit cards. So that is how you safeguard your data. What the third pig did was the third pig had a really strong foundation, but the wolf found a vulnerability or an opening. This is very, very common in some of the applications or any of the websites you access. The hackers can keep attacking the websites and find a small vulnerability or a small opening using which they can get inside the system. That is why we have a very strong testing team. All these organizations have a strong testing team who do vulnerability and penetration testing, that is attacking the structure from the inside to make sure there are no holes or there's no vulnerability using which the hackers can get inside. What happened was the wolf managed to somehow get inside the third house, but the pig decided to light the fireplace on fire. He mitigated the security attack, or he stopped the attack from happening. There's a big team sitting in every organization whose job it is to make sure that any kind of security attack, whenever it happens, they have to make sure that the attack is mitigated or the impact of the attack is nullified. So what I have done is I've used the story of the three little pigs to explain cloud security. My website has many such stories, many such dialogues, and many such videos to explain cloud computing to people from different backgrounds. I've just used creativity to explain complex technical concepts. Moving on. What have I done right now and why use stories? I use something familiar to explain something new to you. You may be familiar with the example of a laundromat. You may be familiar with the story of the three little pigs, or sometimes you may also be familiar with other things like a basketball game or anything that you can relate to. I've used something you can relate to explain something that is completely new. This is why stories are so important. We have been hearing stories as kids, something like morals, science, or even culture or code of conduct. Everything is explained to us using stories. We have been hearing fables, we have been hearing nursery rhymes, all of it, because that's what stories do. They invoke an emotion in us because we can relate to a certain thing, and they help us apply that to something new which we may not understand. I'm from an oral culture, that is, my language, Konkani, still doesn't have a script. I have grown up hearing stories and using the power of stories to understand everything around me, right from language to culture to medicine to science, everything I have understood using stories. So what I have done is I have used the same concept for for my technical background and used it to explain cloud computing. Now, you might be thinking, okay, how is this person applying something like storytelling to technology? And those are two different genre or two different formats, right? Genre or format is a negotiation rather than adherence to a codified form. What do I mean by that? We are constantly negotiating between different, we are constantly negotiating between the format of a particular genre or a format of a particular discipline. What we know today for a novel is not the same as it was when people used to write epics, right? So it is more of a negotiation and it's always open to revision. So that is the fluidity of a genre. And there are artifacts that are open to revision. No one is feeding this down our throat, or no one is forcing us to understand, understand the notion of a genre. It's always open to revision, and we need to make sure that we are using this for the best of our capacity to help people around us and help people understand things that they may not have good exposure to. And finally, it is response to various cultural and academic interactions. The notion of a genre has changed as we are moving down different generations and different, maybe different situations. Pandemic has also changed things for us. Right now, we are doing everything virtually, which we may not have thought of maybe a decade back or even a few years back for that matter. So we need to make the best use of the fluidity of any kind of format, whether it's the format of technical writing or the format of storytelling, bringing it both together to make an optimal experience for people around us. Talking about genre and culture, like I said, genre is a cultural artifact that is open to revision, and it is shaped by individual and cultural interactions. I have studied in India as well as the United States. And while I have done that, I have realized that everything, I mean, whether it's the format of a technical writing article or whether it is the format of an academic article, it varies between different cultures, different institutions. It is shaped by our experience. It is how we experience the notion of a genre, whether it is technical writing or whether it is storytelling. And this kind of fluidity or the ability for us to shape gave me this idea of using storytelling to explain something that is traditionally explained by white papers or technical articles. Next, analogies in cloud technologies, which is what I'm doing right now. What is an analogy? Analogy is a kind of storytelling that helps us link various responses or various interactions with each other. I use the analogy, for example, of a laundromat to explain cloud computing, or I use the story of the three little pigs to explain cloud security. Dahlstrom explains analogy as this is outside of direct experience and technology is outside of direct experience and people are dependent on other to interpret information. We all may not always have access to all the technical concepts and all the technical articles out there, or we may not actively be working on a particular technology. We all use some kind of website, for example, a shopping website, but not all of us know web designing, right? That is why it is important to use the power of analogies, because they are the extension of stories that our life tell through political systems, technology, and experiences for that matter. Leslie Atkins says that. So using stories, we can explain something which is always not within our direct experience. And this is what I have been striving to do through this pandemic. Now, I've talked a lot about stories and storytelling, but it's important to have some ethical considerations when you're using storytelling to explain technology. So it's important to engage your readers with their stories and not use something completely alien to them either, right? Because we don't want to confuse them with something other. Like, I know the story of an epic Ramayana, but I'm not going to use that for an audience who may have never read that epic. So it is important to engage readers with your stories when you're trying to explain a concept to them. And also stay sensitive to the cultural forces and responses the stories may evoke, because we don't want things to trigger anything. So we have to be very, very sensitive to the cultural background a person belongs to and the responses the stories may evoke. We don't want to evoke any kind of traumatic experience or any kind of experience that we don't, for people who are listening to our stories, right? So having a neutral balance between storytelling and what we want to explain, in this matter technology, is very, very important. And having that sensitivity towards your audience, towards the people who are listening to your stories is also very important. And finally, we have to present the information accurately without leaving much room for distortion of facts. So we cannot just talk in the air, and accuracy is also important. Because stories are sometimes so ambiguous, like I'll understand a story differently from you, it is important to clarify information from time to time and give the information very accurately without distorting the facts. Because after all, we have a responsibility out there. So these are some of the ethical considerations that we need to think about while we're explaining storytelling. And thank you so much for listening to my presentation and tuning into my talk. You can reach out to me on my website or on LinkedIn. So I'm most active on LinkedIn or on Twitter as well. So I'll just open the room for questions. So Andres, you can just take over for that. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? Can the MC help me with that, please?
Oh, sorry, someone locked my voice here, but I'm back. Vijeta, thank you very much. I have been into technical jobs now for nearly 20 years, and I always struggled with how to tell my mother what I'm actually doing. Now I get a point where I was wrong, and I will improve for the future. We have time for one question, and I want to ask you this because you told us this in terms of business related, informing people what you're doing. And I was wondering, consider a manager, a CEO who has usually no time and no technical background and sometimes quite no nerve for details. What would be your one or two suggestions how to address this person? And we have about 1 minute, by the way.
Sure. So I think this is a great question. So always do a background check. Like whenever you're talking to a CEO of a particular company or CEO of an organization, think about what background they come from. Maybe they have a very, very strong business background, but they may not be technically that sound. So you have to first do your homework, do a background check before going into there, and always practice your elevator pitch. Elevator pitch is something what I'm doing at this moment because I have a minute left to explain something. Think about getting into an elevator, and by the time you reach your floor, you should be able to put your point across. And that is a skill which we have to practice and learn. So keep an elevator pitch ready. And also, like you said, don't go into the details. Give a high level overview and give your important points. Like don't miss out on the important points. And all of this comes with practice. Stand in front of a mirror. That's what I used to do, and practice. Just take on the personality of different people. I've taken on the personality of my mother, who doesn't have no understand anything when it comes to technology, and of a CEO of a technical company who knows more than I do. So practice and always keep your audience in consideration, the person you're talking to. So this is the advice I have to give right now.
Thank you, Vijeta. Thank you for your speech.